Hot off the heels of last week's news regarding Simon Kinberg developing a brand new Star Wars trilogy for Lucasfilm that we have very little hopes for in terms of it getting actually made, but whatever, we now have more reports on what exactly is going on with the broader future of the franchise, and a lot of it, as it turns out, hinges on Rey. While that should be exciting for a lot of Star Wars fans on paper, this new article from The Hollywood Reporter's Boris Kitt paints a chaotic and somewhat depressing behind-the-scenes picture currently going on at Lucasfilm, with writers being rotated on and off the new Rey film announcing of the year, directors competing for the same characters while developing films within the established canon, and multiple insiders generally just giving the impression of a studio bereft of fresh ideas, banking on nostalgia to pull audiences going forward. That's a whole lot, but whatever. I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Star Wars, and I thought me and Gareth Morgan could maybe talk the Federation in to giving us a little slack, and by the Federation I mean Lucasfilm, because holy god, what the hell is going on, Gareth?
Yeah, that article was some interesting reading. That's one way of putting it, because like we said, we came on here the other day and we had a chat about the current state really of Lucasfilm and all these movies that are apparently in the works and aren't going to be happening. And now throughout this article, it feels like someone's just pulled the curtain back a little bit and gone, yeah, it's just as messy as you thought, if not worse. So it's not something that's probably going to fill a lot of Star Wars fans out there hoping for some new exciting movies to drop into cinemas anytime soon. It's not going to fill them with a lot of hope or optimism really for the future, because it don't look great.
Yeah, basically we got like the whole broader picture being painted here, for me at least, having read it, was that on a fundamental level, Lucasfilm does not know how to build new Star Wars stories without banking on what came before. Now, obviously, there have been exceptions to this. We know that Andor by Tony Gilroy was like a completely original product. Obviously, that is set within the context of like, between the prequels and the original trilogy, but it's still, focusing on delivering something new. And even The Acolyte, which I know is poorly received, that was delving into the High Republic Wider Media Initiative, which I think overall, even if you don't enjoy the High Republic stuff, you're probably of the opinion that you want to see Star Wars venture into new directions after several decades of just focusing on the Skywalkers, and especially since Disney took over, that kind of overwhelming focus on the lineage of the Skywalker family, and how that translated into the Rise of Skywalker and basically what's going forward at the minute, and obviously with The Mandalorian also delving into the original trilogy stuff. There's a whole lot here that is kind of predicated around servicing the childhoods of people who grew up with the original films, when that kind of forgets why people fell in love with Star Wars in the first place. And that's because despite the many, cinematic inspirations it pulls from, whether that's Kurosawa, whether that's John Ford, it was still George Lucas's imagination on display and coming up with all these great visuals of Ralph McQuarrie, etc. But going into the specifics of the piece, the first big quote to mention here is, while insiders dispute the notion that there is a battle for Rey, so this is discussing how there is the upcoming Rey movie, the idea that Rey might feature into Simon Kinberg's, upcoming plans, there definitely is internal deliberation within Lucasfilm as to what to do with the heir to Skywalker next. She is the most valuable cinematic asset, in some ways, maybe the only one Star Wars has right now, one source close to the franchise tells The Hollywood Reporter. According to sources, Rey is set to play a role in several movies that are being developed, although which ones remain unclear. The closet is a little bare, says another source. So the impression that I'm getting here, Gareth, isn't that they're using Rey because they think they have an impetus to tell fresh stories with the character. It's because they are so terrified of delivering something new that they're already reaching into the well of what came before and praying to God that if they throw something at the board, it may actually stick, which I think, I think Daisy Ridley deserves better. I think fans of Rey as a character deserve better. I think sequel fans deserve better. I think Star Wars fans in general deserve better than just this idea that, only Rey is good cinematic, kind of like intrigue. It's like, just back yourselves to make something new and exciting and cool that would get people on board. It's why, out of all the projects announcing of the year, James Mangold, even after he did his really bad Indiana Jones movie, his film about the origins of the Jedi, on paper is clearly the most interesting thing that has been announced. But I don't know what you think.
No, I agree, because that's one that it feels like it's set out apart and completely away from this core saga that's been absolutely just mined for years. Like, that's its own thing. It's not really going to be like just stuck to this story that's just been completely overtold at this point. And when it comes to the Rey stuff, I completely agree. It breaks my heart a little bit, because I feel like as a character, Rey started out with a ton of potential. Like, she was going in directions where it felt fresh, it felt compelling, and then the character, Daisy Ridley, just in general as the character, were the victims of just multiple different visions in the end, and she was just dragged all over the place. And then by the time Rise of Skywalker ended, it was like, I don't know what's happened to this character that I cared about now. It's just like she's just this amalgamation of loads of different ideas and being pulled in loads of different directions. And it feels like now that's exactly what's happening here, whereas they're taking this one person that feels like, in their minds, someone that can really connect with the audience. They go, oh yeah, we know Rey, okay, we can build everything around her, and they're just gonna, from the sounds of it, drop her in multiple different projects, which are likely to be directed by multiple different people, which means you're probably gonna get a lot of different visions for that character, and it's the same thing all over again. That arc's gonna be all over the place, and it's, again, like you said, it's a disservice to Daisy Ridley and disservice to the character. I don't understand why we're still in this position, and the penny still hasn't dropped for Lucasfilm, that people don't just want to go there and just connect with something that they recognize and go, oh yeah, Star Wars, I remember. They want compelling characters, they want new characters, they want intriguing stories. Like you said, that's what got us into Star Wars in the first place. Like, this massive, larger-than-life tale, all these new characters, these new worlds. It was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this. And now it's just, remember that thing you liked from years ago? There it is again. It's like, well, no, I've got that version of it. I really like that version of it. Like, they're going nowhere. This Old Testament, as it was referred to in this article, which is, again, just wow. So like we've got that already, and like I know they're saying like, oh, we're looking to build this New Testament now, but it's like, no, just make another book. Stay away from this book. Okay,
I really think that Star Wars fans in general should feel really patronized by the idea that collectively they're a gaggle of really religious fans, because obviously there are people who are ridiculous about Star Wars online, never going to dispute that, but it feels to me that in the wake of The Last Jedi, Lucasfilm overall has taken a backlash and decided that now we need to be ultra fearful about anything we do with this series going forward, as is evidenced by the way that they reacted to The Acolyte after the online backlash of that. Again, say what you will about that movie, but I thought that was quite a reactive way to kind of go, oh, sorry, that spin-off, but it was quite a reactive way to go about shuttering it. I think on that level, it's really frustrating, but I also think that the actual way that these films are being developed and have been developed for the past 8 years, longer perhaps, going back to the way that Solo was developed and the difficulties that occur with that film. It's a movie that I actually personally really like, but the idea at the time of like trying to build Star Wars out into this MCU style franchise, that didn't pan out. And then, as we mentioned the other week, there have been so many different projects that have been announced that just haven't been made. And the other interesting bit of analysis in here, which includes, another source, quote, what the Kinberg hiring lays bare is that development of movies at the company, Lucasfilm, remains its own unique ecosystem in Hollywood. There are numerous Star Wars movies being developed that overlap characters or timelines. They are not related, but whatever one were to come out first could, in a domino effect, then impact the ones after it. Now, I don't know about you, Gareth, but I feel like the solution to this is just to do a completely different, just go far into the future, go far into the past. I feel like there is maybe a general expectation now that I know the High Republic exists and I'm really grateful for it, but it feels to me that in the current climate, and bearing in mind the High Republic was an initiative that started 4-5 years ago, I don't think you could make something like Knights of the Old Republic now, purely because Disney would go, okay, well, how do you tie this back to Yoda? How do you tie this back to Jabba the Hutt? Where is the grounding to the actual cinematic saga that we have? And it's really, really deeply frustrating to me because I feel like if the solution is so simple, if you're so worried about stepping on each other's toes, why don't you just take the blueprint of Star Wars and take it far into the future, far into the past? You know, it's meant to be like a myth and legend being passed down between generations. Adhering to canon this deeply is just deeply silly. Like, I think it's really, really dumb.
Yeah, it is, and it's this thing where it's a massive galaxy that has all this history, and like you can tell all these different stories. You just don't have to keep in this small little tight bubble for the sake of safety. And at the end of the day, it's kind of proven over the last couple of years that having these points that you return to, these safety zones, these comfort zones, aren't necessarily working. People are they're getting bored, they're getting tired of it because they've seen it all before, like I mentioned earlier. So you'd think now they'd be in a position where they go, all right, we need to roll the dice here, and we need to just let these world-class and talented filmmakers just go out and tell whatever story they want to do, but a separate story. And if you're going to be strict at any point within this process, you go, right, just do not connect it to anybody called Skywalker, any Yodas, any like Maul, whatever it is. Like, just keep these world famous names, whatever they are in Star Wars, keep them out of your mouth, keep them out of your film, and just do your own thing. And then this incredible thing will happen. People will soon become connected to those characters, and they will become these big shining lights in the series, and then you can build a wave. You want to build a little franchise off the success of that, and you've got more stories to tell that need telling, then you go and do it. But don't just keep trying to mine this nostalgia. It says here in the article that it's just like we've kind of run out of nostalgia, really. They've done everything. It's like, yes, they did that about 10 years ago, and now we're still here.
The exact quote. And it is the most damning thing, because I feel like if you're at Lucasfilm and you don't have the imagination to create something new from there, then what are we doing? So the quote is, another source familiar with the process is more business-minded, noting, Star Wars is a nostalgia-based enterprise, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia. Now, Gareth, I don't know about you, right? Over the past 5 years, my love of Star Wars has really taken a beating, and it's primarily because I feel like they have this perception of the fandom as they want the nostalgia purely and exclusively. When it's like, well, no, I want to see. I grew up with the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. I grew up when there was like all this stuff going on in what is now called Star Wars Legends. You know, some of it good, some of it bad, but a lot of it was There was still fresh ideas in and amongst the stuff that was, you know, clearly catering to you know, the lore of what came before. And I just feel like Disney, Lucasfilm, and Kathleen Kennedy, they're really underserving what this franchise could be. If for the past 5 years we've gotten a bunch of Andors and we've gotten stuff that felt new and original and exciting and wasn't what felt like a bunch of grown men playing with their kind of action figures and going, hey, do you remember this set that we used to play with? Here it is in The Mandalorian. Hey, do you remember Yoda? Well, now we've got a baby version of him. All of it just feels incredibly, incredibly patronizing. And if they'd gone in a different direction and done more stuff like Star Wars Visions, you know, stuff like that, or just actually making a, you know, canon set Star Wars thing that was like far in the future of the timeline. I think we mentioned Star Wars Legacy last week, you know, or KOTOR, you know, there are things that you can do new things in this playground. It's not like, I don't know, it's just really, really silly to me. It's like looking at the entire expanse of history and going, well, Westerns are the only things that are popular, so we're only going to make Westerns forever, which I would love because I'm a big Westerns guy, but it's like you don't want to just. How can you look at such a massive scope and just whittle it down into such a tiny, tiny period? The lack of imagination is it's staggering.
And it's like you're saying that the properties and the projects that are going to age supremely well, like over the last like 5-10 years, whatever it is, the Disney era, just in general of Star Wars, are the ones that have seen this as just a canvas. They've seen Star Wars as a canvas that they can just paint on and do whatever they want with Star Wars in that world, like Andor, Visions, all these things where you're going to come back to them in a decade's time and go, wow, that's just great storytelling. That's good stuff. And it's not just replaying the hits and just throwing out the same. You like Coca-Cola? There's some more Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. If you have like 20 cans of Coca-Cola every single day, you're going to get sick of Coca-Cola. That's just the way it is. So we need a bit of variety, and you are hoping that they've got all these different directors in here. You got Taika Waititi, Sean Levy, like all these people that are trying to hopefully do something a bit different, not just try and just recycle what they love from the past. You're
After
hoping.
what Sean Levy did with Free
I
Guy
know.
and Deadpool and Wolverine, he feels like he's tailor-made for this nostalgia slop thing that they're going for. And I know this probably sounds quite dismissive to people who are a fan of his films, but I think if you're trying to give Star Wars the rocket injection it needs to go forward, you don't do it this way. And I do think there is a space for more stories set in what we're familiar with. Like, I'm really looking forward to Donald Glover doing a Lando movie. That's really cool because, again, I liked Solo, which is another example, and Rogue One as well. Great examples of how you can still do cool stuff within those timelines. But I feel like just generally, like, the prequels were massive because they were a complete breath of fresh air. Like, yeah, there was certain things that obviously it ties into the original saga, but Lucas and Doug Chiang created a whole new aesthetic with those films.
They didn't sit there, Ewan, and go, "What did I do last time?" They like that. Let's do that again. No,
And we've not had a genuine new aesthetic in Star Wars on the big screen since the prequels. We had obviously the High Republic has its own unique visual identity, which I really, really like. But in terms of, live action, in terms of like video games, it's just not happened, which really does speak to Disney, the corporation, selling you memory, selling you dream, selling you comfort, and just kind of, emulsifying their properties into just one generic slurry tray of nostalgia slop. I'm going off on one here. It just really annoys me because Star Wars can be better.
Yeah.
And I am frustrated that it's being kind of just ground down into a smoosh.
Into a product. It's a product now. It's something that you can pick up and you can buy in a shop. And I know it's always had that the merchandising roots with the action figures and whatever it was. Like they've always been there, but now it's got to a point where the actual content that's being turned into the toys have become the toys. the bits that you're watching the action figures on screen in a way, if that makes any sense. You're sat there going, I'm watching with people just play with their old toys, not new toys, the old toys that I've got, and I can make those stories or even better stories out of my own imagination at home with my toys. I want to see something that my mind couldn't fathom, my mind couldn't make up, and just I want to see that. I want to be shocked. I want to be stunned in my Star Wars. That's how I felt when I watched the originals. That's what I felt when I watched the prequels. At times I felt it in the sequels, like Last Jedi at times where you completely swerve, but then it just feels like now we're just going to get to a point where we're going to get in episode 9 territory again for the next couple of films, and I don't think that's what anybody wants, but have Disney learned from their mistakes? It does not look like it.
Yeah, it's a whole lot, everyone. We're clearly in a despairing situation about the future of Star Wars. But please let us know, genuinely, if you are encouraged by the ideas, the different projects that are in development. If you're happy with how Lucasfilm have been running things recently, let us know down there. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because again, I want to hear different perspectives. But in any case, let us know in general, literally whatever thoughts you have about this down in the comments below, because I'm genuinely curious to know if people, if what is being said in this report, if people do want to have what came before, or whether they want something new and fresh along the lines of like that lightning bolt moment when we got something like Knights of the Old Republic, or even something that is more just kind of a niche kind of novelty like Star Wars Legacy. Let us know down there. Don't forget to do a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to What Culture Star Wars for more fresh baked Bantha Poodoo to your subscription box every day. I'm really underselling us there by calling it Bantha Poodoo.
We are Bantha Poodoo. We could be in the minority, like you're saying there. We could be, and everyone could love this news. And to be honest, part of me hopes that some people out there do enjoy this, because I want people to love Star Wars. I do. I want them to love the galaxy far, far away again. So I like it. I'm very interested to see if some people disagree with these opinions, or if you agree with them, whatever it is, throw some comments down there, and like follow us as well. Follow us on the old X machine at gmorgan04. Where can they follow you, Ewan?
I'm at Ewan Ruins Things, which it's prophetic.
Live it up to your name, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening and watching. I hope you have a lovely day, a lovely week, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.